Staff ready? Staff ready? Good evening and welcome to the Tuesday, November 9th, 2021 Town Council meeting in the town of Mount Pleasant. It's good to see everybody here. Appreciate everybody turning out tonight. We have an agenda that has been published. Item number 1 is the prayer by Chaplain Robinson, and then we will have the pledge led by Councilman Howard Chapman, so please stand.
If you'd like, join with me in prayer. Almighty God, we come before you as a community and as those who have a heart towards our people. And our people are your people. And you have called those who serve in leadership in our first responder and public safety community, and also our citizens, but also tonight, a special group that are going to be sworn in. We thank you, Lord, that before the foundation of this earth, that you've chosen those to be leaders and to serve you. And God, we ask that through them and through this community, we may hold hands, hearts, and minds together towards progress and towards the blessing of Mount Pleasant. For it's in your holy and precious name we ask this blessing and your presence. Amen.
Amen. Please face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item number 3 is approval.
Move to approve.
Of the
Second.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor of approval of the agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The agenda is approved. Item number 4, public hearings, awards, and presentations. Item A, administration of oath to the mayor-elect. Judge Michelle, if you will join us up front. And First Lady.
Congratulations again. All right, place your left hand on the Bible, raise your right hand. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I am duly qualified,
that I am duly qualified,
according to the Constitution of this state,
according to the Constitution of this state,
to exercise the duties of the office
to exercise the duties of the office
to which I have been elected,
to which I have been elected,
and that I will,
and that I will,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
discharge the duties thereof,
discharge the duties thereof,
and preserve,
protect,
and defend the Constitution of this state
the Constitution of this state
and the United States.
and the United States.
As mayor of the town of Mount Pleasant,
As mayor of the town of Mount Pleasant,
I will equally,
fairly,
and impartially,
and impartially,
to the best of my ability and skill,
to the best of my ability and skill,
exercise the trust reposed in me, and I will use my best endeavors
and I will use my best endeavors
to preserve the peace
to preserve the peace
and carry into effect,
and carry into effect,
according to the law,
the
purposes for which I have been elected. So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations again, Mayor. Thank you very much. Very proud of you. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll do it all. Will the council members elect please come forward? You gonna do everybody at the same time? Y'all will face the cameras and I will face you. And bring up Whoever is with you.
So your wife can stand right here, holding on to the Bible. You place your left hand on your, raise your, just get a little closer.
Sorry.
Okay.
Are we good? Yes. Please place your hand on the Bible, raise your right hand, and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I am duly qualified,
that I am duly qualified,
according to the Constitution of this state,
according to the Constitution of this state,
to exercise the duties of the office
to exercise the duties of the office
to which I have been elected,
to which I have been elected,
and that I will, to the best of my ability,
and that I will, to the best of my ability,
discharge the duties thereof,
discharge the duties thereof,
and preserve,
and preserve,
protect,
protect,
and defend
and defend
the Constitution of this state
the Constitution of the state
and of the United States.
and of the United States.
As a council member
As a council member
of the town of Mount Pleasant,
of the town of Mount Pleasant,
I will equally,
I will equally,
fairly,
fairly,
and impartially,
and impartially,
to the best of my ability and skill,
to the best of my ability and skill,
exercise the trust reposed in me,
exercise the trust reposed in me,
and I will use my best endeavors
and I will use my best endeavors
to preserve the peace
to preserve the peace
and carry into effect,
and carry into effect,
according to law,
according to law,
the purposes for which I have been elected.
the purposes for which I have been elected,
So help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations.
A little bit further that way, so we can have Councilmember Ritchie this way, right there. We're gonna take pictures of everyone. Okay, that's good. With the Bible. Let's show the Bible. There. Look at it. With the face up.
They cut it easy. They had it easy for them.
She's so bad.
Deal.
I picked a great time to forget my glasses. I don't know what I did. Yes, will the new council members come be seated, please? While we are getting settled, I just wanted to make a few remarks. I want to thank all those who ran. I want to thank all those who have served who are not here tonight. I want to thank those who ran this time or previous times but have not won yet. Your day will come, I assure you. Public service is not easy. It is hardest at the local level. This is where government affects your life every day. The things that we do here have the most effect on the most amount of people, the most amount of time. I think the best days for the town of Mount Pleasant are ahead of us. I look forward to working with all of you, and it's a privilege for all of us to be sitting up here, and we want to thank you all for the privilege. Let's clap for the people of Mount Pleasant. We'll now take a 10-minute recess for some pictures with family and those who will be leaving, and then we will get on with our monthly town council meeting. Thank you.
Straight in the bathroom break.
Tie. I got dressed up for the fancy occasion.
Good to see you. Absolutely, thank you. How's your daughter? Still teaching away?
Walk out there and
Yeah.
walk outside.
And Amy's not going to be able to afford that with teaching at Bishop Midland.
Just you.
I went to school.
How you doing, brother? Good to see you. Looking good, my man.
See you again.
Looking good.
Yeah.
Meeting.
That's a nice way to say John gets
We're not pushing anybody out. Everybody seated? Okay. Item E is election of the mayor pro tem. This is a council function.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like
Yes,
to
sir.
make a motion.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to move that we select Councilmember Gary Santos as the mayor pro tem.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
97 years.
So at our next meeting, you'll move down here, so.
Okay, thank you very much.
Item F is update on the South Carolina Ports Authority from our good friend Jordy Yarborough from SPA. We are just very glad that we stole your headquarters from the city of Charleston. It's great to have y'all here. And for those that were at the annual State of the Port luncheon, how many, 200 people? How many people?
Oh, no, about 400.
400 people there. Y'all are very good at giving Mount Pleasant shout-outs, and we appreciate that.
Well, we
Y'all are
thank you,
great
Mr.
to have in our town, so.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
It's all
It's hard to
yours.
believe that that'll be 3 years in January that we moved into our new headquarters
Really is.
here in Mount Pleasant. So, Mr. Mayor, members of council, Jordy Yarborough with the South Carolina State Ports Authority, thank you for giving me just a few minutes of your time this evening. I wanted to come and share with you all our annual report, which Christiane has put in front of you on your desk. It's a recently published report that includes our year-end financials. We are on the state's schedule and closed the books in June, had those audited and printed in this report, so all of that information is there, as well as all the big developments for the year for us. It was a record-breaking year for the port, proud to say. We also broke records with the size of ships that called on the Wando Terminal that's located here in Mount Pleasant, and many other important milestones, including the Walmart announcement that happened in our fiscal year. So really just wanted to come tonight, share that with you all, introduce myself to the new members, but coincidentally, congratulations, and for those re-elected. We have found, Mr. Mayor, the other thing that's hard to believe, about 4 years ago when we first met, we worked through the challenge of the Edwards Bridge being down, and we worked very well with that. It's very important to us at the port, with local government, as you mentioned, how important it is in our day-to-day lives, and that we have that direct communication and work through problems as they arise and work together on solutions that work for everyone. So my card is there for you all, and I've met many of you, but not all of you, so just wanted to introduce myself to the new members, say congratulations, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. I don't think we have any questions at this time, but thank y'all for being so available, and I'm sure we'll be in touch soon.
Please reach out directly, and again, congratulations, and see you soon.
Thank you, Jordy.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Item 5 on the next page is approval of the minutes from the October 12th, 2021 Town Council meeting
Move for
and the
approval.
September financials. We have a motion to
Second.
approve and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are approved. Item number 6 is public comment. If you'd like to make a public comment, when your name is called, please come forward. We do have a clock. You'll have 2 minutes. Please give your name and address. I'll turn it over to Mr. DeMora. Had a death in his family and had to go out of state. He has missed the first meeting since ever, I think. And so we're glad to have you, Ms. Farrell. Thank you for filling in.
Thank you, sir. The first speaker we have tonight is Ms. Carol Tinky. I'm sorry? How many speakers? We've got about a dozen.
Good evening, and congratulations, Mr. Mayor, newly elected council members, Mayor Pro Tem, old council members, thank you for your service. I'm here just to speak again about concerns I have with the noise ordinance that is under consideration for, I think it's a final reading tonight. The historic district is experiencing serious problems with noise pollution. And it's just as real as air pollution, water pollution, or whatever other kinds of pollution we deal with. The old village has evolved organically over many years. The streets were designed originally for foot traffic or horse traffic or wagon traffic. The property lines often don't meet setbacks. Everything's basically very close together. The commercial buildings are in close proximity to each other and to the historic homes. The sound reverberates. Historic areas are generally considered sensitive to exterior noise levels. Residential dwellings are of primary concern because of the potential for increased and prolonged exposure of individuals to both interior and exterior noise levels. The National Geographic Society and the National Institute of Health have pointed out that sleep disturbances, stress, high blood pressure are higher when there is noise in the community in all age groups. And so that's been cited as a health problem, contributing contributing to stress and annoyance. An important way of determining a person's subjective reaction to a new noise is the comparison of it to the existing environment, the ambient noise, the ambient environment. The old village has enjoyed quite a calm ambient environment over many, many years, and that's just being challenged now. Vibrations put the historic buildings at risk. Window panes can be damaged. Ours rattled during the recent noise assault we had that we've discussed. And
Ms. Tink, you need to wrap.
We have to call time.
I have a lot more. Bye.
That's all right. That's your 2 minutes. Thank you, Carol.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Chris Marino, and that will be followed by Lawrence Tisdale.
Good evening, town leaders. Welcome, new council members. Congratulations. I'm here as the managing partner of Laredo. As most of you already know, we are under contract with y'all for the purchase of a piece of property up on Faison Road in Carolina Park. I'm also here as a private citizen, having lived in this town for 23 years and raised 3 children here. I just wanted to make a few comments to give you all some things to think about tonight, because I know it's a big decision. The property under contract with the town is roughly 38 acres. 33 of those acres are developable. There's 4 years remaining on the wetland permit. This, by the way, is not new information. This permit was given to the town staff 3 months ago. And so this is not new. At the end of those 4 years, the town can choose to request an extension, which according to the experts is granted 90% of the time with the first request. The town can also mitigate immediately or over the next couple of years. When I negotiated this discounted contract with the town, my hope was that they would buy the property and have an opportunity to control the development of the land in a manner that would benefit the community as a whole. This land will be developed, as will the remaining land in Carolina Park. All of it will be developed under the current wetland permit. The only question that remains to be answered is how it will be developed and what role the town wants to play in the development of that property. This contract represents what very well may be the town's last opportunity to purchase a large tract of land in the north end of town and provide the many services this growing community needs. Things like an art center, a senior center, additional recreation facilities, potentially a YMCA. I'm hopeful that y'all will make the right decision and consider what's in the best interest of this community. Thank you.
Okay, Lawrence Tisdale, followed by Rick Arthur.
Lawrence Tisdale, 1535 Trumpington. First, I just want to say congratulations, everyone. Well-deserved. And I just came tonight following the echoes of the last gentleman. I think he put it out great. This land on Faison Road, could be the last mass purchase that we could actually have for our citizens. I'm pretty sure that the money is already allocated for this project, and like the gentleman said before, this land is going to get developed either way, and I think that our citizens, our taxpayers, we should be thinking about them first. And I really think that this could be just a great thing for this town, and I just get nervous, but I hope that you guys think about the people in this town in the north end too, because a lot of times we're forgotten about down there. And I just want to, again, thank you very much, and congratulations to all. Thanks.
Okay, Rick Arthur, followed by Kevin Cunane.
Hey, good evening, everybody, and thank you for your service. I want to echo those before me, too. We appreciate your leadership very much. I'm here to speak about, and I'm at 3626 Coastal Crab Road, which is in the Darrell Creek community. I'm here to speak about the land on Faison Road as well. As you can imagine, it's a significant topic for many of us, but particularly those of us that live in northern Mount Pleasant. The land purchase is a unique and incredibly rare opportunity for our town. Thank you to the generosity of the family. We really appreciate the Marino family. We have a chance to chart our course and execute a vision for our town, for services that are desperately needed in that part of town. From an investment perspective, this is a financial windfall for our town, and there's a fiduciary responsibility to the citizens of Mount Pleasant. The stretch of town, as we all know, north of 41 and beyond, is one of the fastest growing segments in the country from a residential perspective, yet it is severely underserved from a commercial and retail perspective. So let's ensure, as you go into executive session tonight, the opportunity to make a difference and embrace that opportunity to leave a legacy and make a difference in this town. This is a gift. It truly is a gift. And I hope that we will embrace it and do the right thing. Let's recognize it as the gift that it is. So to our newest council members, congratulations to each of you. This is really your first opportunity to make a difference for the citizens of Mount Pleasant. Thank you.
Kevin Cunane, followed by Candy Buchanan.
Kevin Cunane, 3032 River Vista Way. Congratulations to the newly elected council members. As a former council member myself, I want to take this opportunity to remind the council of the responsibility you have undertaken. Your service is not about political survival. It's not about political alliances. It's about service. You will be presented with many opportunities to do the right thing. They will not all be easy. In fact, some things will be very tough. You may have to stand up to establish power structures. You may have to stand up for the powerless in front of the powerful. You'll shortly receive direct evidence of wrongdoing by a town official, complete with documents and video proof. Should you ignore the information presented to you, the town's going to face additional liability, and you might too. Remember, you're not here to protect anyone but the public. Ignoring wrongdoing is essentially a cover-up and an endorsement of the wrongful conduct. Now, on the Faison Road issue, currently ringing the airport, there are duplex homes, condominiums, a daycare nursery school, a veterinarian, a bus depot, and a collision shop, all on that same land. Now, all of a sudden, there's a problem with the wetland permits. Well, then how did the duplex homes, condos, daycare, nursery school, veterinarian, bus depot, and collision shop get there? Because they figured out how to work the system, and in accordance with the wetland permit that they applied for probably 20 years ago, this land is developable. So this is a cover for people who don't want to do the right thing by the north side of the town. And all the excuses, that's exactly what they are. They're excuses. It's a dance. We've seen this before. We've seen where the mayor will fight things that nobody can figure out why. The why is because when it's on this side, he gets to control things tighter. And up there, he may not. So please do the right thing. Thank you.
Okay, Candy Buchanan, and the next will be Louisa Montgomery.
Well, I'll echo congratulations to all. My name is Candy Buchanan. I live at 1520 Village Square, which is in the North Point neighborhood, which is a little pocket neighborhood off of Ben Sawyer Boulevard. And I'm here to express concerns about the plans currently for the Bilo redevelopment. Not against redeveloping that property. It's far too valuable to have it sit empty. But because of the way that property is situated between two neighborhoods, with only a retention pond separating us, there's some issues that I would like to be considered. Maybe not tonight at the final reading, but when they go to the design and review board. And those would be already during heavy rains, that retention pond that will serve that development as well as our two neighborhoods already is at capacity. If we get a really heavy rain, you can just watch it, starting to fill up. And the proposal includes filling in the small retention pond that's on that property currently. So that, that's a big concern. Also, there's going to be a parking lot behind that Bilo building. So with that comes issues with parking lot lights at night, noise. The current plan is 35 pages long, so it's difficult for a layperson to be able to look at that and say, well, what exactly is this? But it does look as if they're taking out that tree barrier that right now mitigates the back of that building. And so we would ask that, the other issue would be ambient noise from HVA systems and other mechanics. So we hope we have an opportunity to have some input as a neighborhood. Thank you.
Okay, Louisa Montgomery next, followed by Barry Wolf.
Good evening, Louisa Montgomery, 404 Church Street. Again, I'm here about the noise situation in the old village. I've spoken to you all before about the golden goose and the golden goose's egg. And the historic district is the egg. You don't want to break that egg. People don't come to Mount Pleasant to visit the northern section. They come to visit Mount Pleasant's historic district. So we do have a noise problem. My out-of-town guests were awakened at 1 o'clock on a Sunday morning and had to call in law enforcement twice. And there are more than 20 houses in the immediate area. That's hard to believe. These are dwellings with people who are sleeping, children who are trying to go to bed on time to get up for school. It is a disgrace. It is a disgrace. And I trust you all to really consider seriously the decibel level that is now in the ordinance that you are considering. Make sure, in order to make sure that it is appropriate. It has been said that there are some levels that if you were sitting by the vacuum cleaner, you couldn't talk on the telephone. That's a decibel that's too high. And in order to help you, a concerned citizen, not me, another concerned citizen, has offered to give you all 2 decibel meters. They're guaranteed germ-free, and I'll leave them with the clerk of court. And congratulations, I trust you all to hold the fort. Thank you.
Okay, next speaker is Barry Wolf, followed by Dennis Blythe.
Barry Wolf, 1468 Pocahontas Street, and if Louisa Montgomery trusts y'all, I do, and that's as far as I can take it. I'm privileged to be the president of the Southeast chapter of the Institute of Recycling Industries, and I represent 230 recycling companies over 7 states. I just went to the National Conference of State Legislators, and I gave our mayor a little brick that's came from the Association for Civil Discourse. I'd like to see civil discourse not only from this body, but from our public. I think we've had enough of pointing fingers, enough of this and that. it's time for us to become one town, okay? We've always been one town, but somebody has tried to separate us, and that's not right. In regards to the noise ordinance, I've been involved with this thing, and it's just an opportunity to give the establishments an opportunity to run their business like everybody else runs their business, the restaurants and the bars. And it seems to me it's a very good compromise. As far as Faison Road, I'm sitting here I've heard about an underserved market. If the market's underserved, the market takes care of itself. That's what this country does. That's what the free enterprise system does. If there's an opportunity, somebody takes care of that opportunity. It's not time for the town to be in the real estate business, and especially on an open-ended, fill it and they will come. I don't think so. Thank you, and God bless you guys.
Next speaker is Dennis Blythe, followed by Alan Belcher.
Good evening, folks. Thank you so much for your service. Welcome to the newest members of council and who have served in other areas as well in the past, but welcome, John, welcome, Carl. I have to agree with much of what Barry has to say. I do agree with what Barry had to say previously. I think we do need civil discourse, and I would like very much for the new council members and all council members, when there are public comments, to take into account kind of the history of them. And if there are veiled threats, unsubstantiated accusations, etc., value them like they are. When it comes to Faison Road, I don't have the answers, but I will say that wetlands are not a false issue. Wetlands are important to us in this town in every way, in this whole community around here. We pay the price every day for poor development in areas that shouldn't have been developed 40 and 50 years ago when it comes to drainage, when it comes to additional capital costs for things like drainage, etc., for pollution in Shem Creek and septic tanks and all that sort of thing, for filling of marshes, etc. So wetlands are very much an issue, and please do take them heavily into account in any of your deliberations. Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker is Alan Belcher, followed by Chris Coleman.
Good evening. My name is Alan Belcher. I live at 180 Red Knot Lane, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to the council and the mayor this evening. I'm here to express my concern for the need for ordinances that manage noise in the city, particularly traffic. We applaud the proposal for limiting noises in restaurants and hope, as a news article this morning suggested, that this may also apply to trucks and traffic. We've been trying for the last couple of years from our neighborhood to talk with someone from the town without success in scheduling anything. But after talking by phone with the traffic department, legal department, and some others, we've been told that there are no ordinances in the town about traffic noise. We're concerned that the town allowed our homes in Tidal Walk to be built where there was a known health issue, specifically traffic noise consistently 24/7 at or above 80 decibels, ranging up to 100. When we bought our home, we just had no idea how unhealthy that is. And with the proposed widening of Interstate 526 through the town, we think this will be worse for our neighborhood of Tidal Walk, also of Grassy Creek, Hob Call, Bell Hall, and more. And while we would certainly love to have some targeted attention to our daily situation of sound intrusion, we realize that may not happen with a widening project, as the South Carolina Department of Transportation tells us that a sound wall is 10 to 12 years away. However, we sincerely and passionately ask that the town of Mount Pleasant respond to current and future developments by controlling decibel levels of all types of noise, including traffic. Allowing the situation to go unaddressed is the equivalent of permitting residents to live on toxic waste dumps, as there are health problems that come with that. Noise is also a serious health hazard, as we've already heard from other speakers, and we need to do something about it. Thank you for your time and for listening.
Okay, Chris Coleman.
Just in case there's a problem with the technical, I've brought copies for everybody. Let's hope this goes well. I'm told that it doesn't quite come out as loud as I'd hoped it would, but you'll get the idea. Martine, would you be so kind? All right, the proposed ordinance actually, it reads 65, but because it has a provision in the bottom right down there that averages the residential and commercial standards, really 70. 70 is really loud, folks. We'll get to that later. 55, the average 55 seems about okay. Amplified music is limited to 60 dB maximum. That's probably okay too. Next slide. Let's look at where this lands you. You land in the noisiest 7 of the 41 jurisdictions that I reviewed. I read 41 different codes at random just to see what I could find. That would make you one of the worst jurisdictions in Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina. I didn't review New York City or anything like that. These are all local. Next slide. 70 dB is really loud. See, that arrow goes right down there to a nice loud car. 65 ain't so quiet either. Next slide. What does 70 dB sound like? That's an air conditioner, a commercial air conditioner at 5 feet. Imagine that next to your window and property line from 8 a.m. to 10 o'clock at night, or 11. Next. Okay, so I sat with my TV with one of those little noisemakers, and you can try this. You'll see in the right-hand corner that what happens. The very bottom is the decibel meter. Okay, so what you saw there, and it's hard to see, is that I had to turn my TV up to about 82 in order to get to 70 dB and about 60 to get to 65 dB. That's really loud. Okay, so you've heard noise is pollution. The real thing is that the people who make the noise, not the people who receive it, should be the ones to control it, and they can. They can do it. So to finish off quickly, I ask you to lower that noise level to 60 and get rid of that averaging period. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Is
That's
that
our
it?
last speaker.
If there is no one else, yes.
Hi, I'm Marie Louise Moretto, and I live at 1133 Liberty Court. I'm also the president of the Mount Pleasant Community Arts Center. And I'm here to talk to you about Faison Road. There's been a lot of confusion. There has been talk about putting an art center there, a film studio, a cultural center. And I want you as town council members to clarify for us, the general public, what is your perception of a cultural center? Is it just culture, is it art, or is it a combination of both? I'm also asking you to please, before you make any plans, include the creative community in Mount Pleasant and also the residents of Mount Pleasant, so that if this cultural center or cultural arts center is built, that it serves the needs of the creative community and the residents of Mount Pleasant, and that it is a facility that will not be obsolete in 3 years, but will be here for our great-great-grandchildren to enjoy. We presented a proposal to the town's Economic Development Committee, and I would like to make that proposal available to you. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's no one else, all right. That will conclude public comment. And this moves us to item 7, consent agenda items.
Move to approve consent agenda items 7A and B.
We have a motion to approve and a second. We are in discussion. All in favor of the motion to approve the consent agenda items, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? They are approved.
It's final reading of all consent agenda items.
Oh, thank you.
Paperwork. We are at item 8, planning. A, new business is first reading. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, council. So this is an ordinance to amend various sections of the town of Mount Pleasant, particularly related to definitions for hotel, boutique hotel, and then to increase the parking standards for accommodation uses. We already have definitions for a hotel and a boutique hotel. What this would do is, our current definition for a boutique hotel is 50 rooms or less. This would lower it to 25 rooms or less. And then it would also specify this guest room versus a guest suite. So right now, how it's been interpreted since 2014 ordinance amendment is it's a guest unit. And so whenever you go and you check in, you get your key fob. Regardless of the number of bedrooms, that is one guest unit. What these definitions would do would differentiate that between a guest room, which would be any room in the hotel or boutique hotel containing one or more beds. That does not include a couch pull-out bed. And then the guest suite is where you would get into multiple bedrooms in your hotel room. This also increases our standards for parking. So right now, you're allowed to have, the requirement is 1 to 2 parking spaces per guest unit, again, as it's defined currently, one fobbed room, regardless of bedrooms. What this would do is base it on guest room and a guest suite. And then if you had more than 4 guest rooms and a guest suite, you'd have to have 1 additional, and then it also accounts for employee parking. This is kind of a cleanup, which would come later and make sense, but right now it says that the maximum building size in our neighborhood commercial is, yes, sir.
Can I do a motion to defer?
Yes, you may.
Okay.
We have a motion to defer. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion to defer and a second. We are in discussion.
So my discussion is just that items on here that overlap with 9B1 and 2, and getting a clearer understanding, being new to council, understanding how this will affect Mount Pleasant as a whole, and that's why I've done a motion to defer. So.
All right.
I'll speak to that.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I'm sorry that you weren't here for all the discussions that we've had. I'm on the planning committee. We've got 4 members here from the planning committee. This has gone to the planning commission. We've gotten a lot of public input for it, and as such, I will not be voting to defer.
I'll remind everyone, this is first reading. It does not take effect if it passes first reading. And amendments can be made at second reading. Any others? All right, we'll take the vote. This is on the motion to defer. All in favor of the motion to defer, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
No.
All right, the motion to defer does not pass. Continue.
Okay. So we have the definitions, we have the parking standards, and then we have a clarification on the maximum building size in the neighborhood commercial district. This is a typo we wanted to fix while we were doing these text amendments. And so it says minimum, what it means is maximum. So that is a fix there. And then I think what Mr. Icafano was referring to is later, these next text amendments on this page would deal directly with Section 318, which is the Boulevard Overlay District. If, based on what comes later out of our discussion, this is what could go away. But what we're proposing now, because we still have the Boulevard Overlay District, is that the neighborhood commercial uses would not, if you're in the Boulevard Overlay District, you would not be allowed to have those expanded uses, which are typically afforded by being in the overlay. And then it would also hold you to that 6,000 square feet maximum building size. And this also could change based on what comes later. The buildings, the hotel, boutique hotel is proposed to not be permitted in neighborhood commercial. With our conversation later, that would be the same, but there would be further amendments to this table to come. But for now, the proposal is to eliminate it completely in neighborhood commercial and to not change anything in those other zoning districts. And that's all I have, and I'm happy to answer questions.
I'd like to move to approve.
We have a motion to
Second.
approve and a second. We are in discussion. Again, this is first reading, cannot be amended. All right, all in favor of the motion to approve, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Passes first reading. Would you like to read the number? All right.
Final reading of ordinance number 21071.
Oh, first reading.
First reading.
Sorry.
First reading.
Thank you.
Of ordinance 21071.
All right, we got it. Now, we're in item B, old business.
Yes, and this is not on consent agenda because staff had a few minor amendments. And just as a rehash, this is the Shem Creek Waterfront District that was recently adopted, the 3 new districts. These are the design standards that would apply to those 3 new districts. And if you'll recall, the 3 districts are the working, hospitality, and natural. Again, these were design standards that came out of our already existing commercial design review guidelines. We just took the ones that were applicable to this area and made them specific to these zoning districts. The amended version before you tonight is just a little bit more specific. These are the examples listing specific streets within the district that would require buffer. So in other words, it's the only difference is it's more descriptive. Additional textual description and visual exhibits displaying palm tree parking planters, and then the allowance of a single stem crepe myrtle to be used as parking island tree. Other than that, those are the only differences from first reading. And I'm happy to answer questions.
Move to approve with the amendments as stated by the Director of Planning.
Second.
The motion is to approve as amended. We have a motion and a second. We're in discussion. Any discussion? All right, all in favor of the motion to approve as amended, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is approved.
Okay, final reading of ordinance 21073.
Got it. Thank you. Very short planning section tonight. This moves us to item number 9, which is committee action items from the Human Resources Committee. We have action regarding wages for part-time employees. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. As requested and as promised, we're following up the full-time wage increases with the part-time wage increases.
Mayor?
I'm
Yes.
sorry, Ms. Corley. Yes, I apologize.
I've got
Please.
something ready to
Yes.
deliver.
I'm glad. Thank you.
Thank you, you're welcome. So based on council-directed staff to not only take a look at full-time but part-time wages, and they did all the work, and we met in the Human Resource Committee. HR Committee met and reviewed and considered the wage increases for part-time employees following the recent implementation of the classification and compensation study for full-time employees. The proposed wage increases presented included updates based on current market data and comparisons with other municipalities as well as private companies competing with the town for the same pool of candidates for part-time employees. As with the full-time wage increases, the goal of the part-time wage increase was to ensure that we have an affordable compensation plan that allows us to remain competitive. The HR Committee unanimously recommended approval of the wage increases for part-time employees. Therefore, I move to approve the implementation of the proposed wage increases. Thank you. If we have any questions, we've got Christy and Christiane here.
Okay. We have a motion. We have a second. We're in discussion. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank my good colleague, Mr. Chapman here for bringing this up and really pushing this hard. We really appreciated it. I remember when you did that. The staff at the Recreation Department, they work very hard, and the part-time employees work very hard as well. And thank you for recognizing that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And I would love to take all the credit, but I think it was initially in the plan. It just didn't come out originally. So I would just want to make sure it was in the plan and to recognize those people who, without their service, we wouldn't be putting on the tremendous recreation program we have. And we've got a lot of other part-time people who help in a number of departments. So thank the Human Resources Committee for doing what you've done for this.
And for the record and clarity, when does this go into effect?
If approved, it could go into effect on the pay period beginning November 15th.
Okay, so basically almost right away, yes. Okay, just wanted to make sure that was out there. All right. We have a motion, a second. Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion to approve the recommendation from the committee, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Planning Committee, discuss item B1, discussion and possible action regarding repealing the Boulevard Overlay District. The Planning Committee recommended approval 4-0. So who is taking? Yes, ma'am, Ms. Whitley.
So what this is kind of coming in my understanding of the planning committees is that it's more of a temperature read of the council to try to understand if we are headed in the right direction. Since there are just 4 of us on the planning committee, we wanted to get a feel from the rest of council that we're headed in the right direction with this. One of the things that we discussed at committee was that the repeal of the Boulevard Overlay District, it's almost like Jenga. You're pulling a piece out, and you want to make sure that you have another piece to go back in there to prevent the whole thing from falling apart and make sure that business owners and people have clarity as to what's coming in the pipeline. So if there's any discussion or questions, Ms. Reed can answer, and then my thought was that it would go to Planning Commission and for potential drafting of some language.
And for clarity to our legal counsel and parliamentarian, no action is required by council tonight. It's going to the Planning Commission from the committee, is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Without action?
It is scheduled and being noticed for the Planning Commission
Okay.
without any action
So
necessary.
no action is required, nor does it change the timing or anything on that?
Correct, sir.
Okay. All right. Good enough? All right, item number 2. Discussion and possible action regarding amendments that effectuate the accommodation zones and uses as outlined in the comprehensive plan that we passed in 2020.
Ms. Whitley?
So this is basically the same. It's the same thing. So I guess maybe we moved too quickly from item number 1. If there were things that people wanted to discuss, or if Ms. Reed could go through through item number 1 for the council, is that's all right?
Of course.
And then move on to item 2.
Yeah, absolutely. Going back to item 1 real quick, like Ms. Whitley said, we just talked about the timeline of our code rewrite versus the Boulevard Overlay District and those things that could be done a little bit more quickly. And so what we're working on and what we'll bring back to committee December 6th and then go on for public hearing at December 15th Planning Commission would be a repeal of the Boulevard Overlay District. And then what we would do is, based on committee's input and the support of the Planning Commission, is take those design standards that are desirable, that we want to keep, and pull those out, as Ms. Whitley said, and plug them back into our commercial design review standards. And just a few of those things were the wider sidewalks, the activity zones, open space, street trees instead of buffers. So those design criteria that we want to keep and that we want to try and hold on to and maintain for our boulevard overlays. And so that's what we will be bringing to, and we'll have some other items at the December 6th committee for the committee to kind of do a line item through. Do we like this? Do we not? And get their input and then move it forward to commission. And then you'll see it in January. So that's item number 1.
Or number 2?
Mr. Mayor, can I just ask you something real quick?
Yes.
I just want to know, is this going to also be able to recognize the importance of the biking lanes? And for instance, as you know, from I think it's Shrimp Boat Lane over to the other side of the bridge, there's no biking lanes there, so it goes from a biking lane into really nothing. And then it goes back into a biking lane when you get on the other side of the bridge. I know we had talked, Brad, about DOT and trying to get us that fixed to where we could have a continuous biking lane all the way through. You know, we had that catastrophe over there with Captain Megwood as well. And so I think that's what a lot of the conversation came up. Will that be included as well? Because we certainly need to make sure that we have good biking lanes in those areas, safe biking lanes.
Yeah, if it's something in the Boulevard overlay, which is section 318, that we want to keep, we'll do that. If it's not in there, it's something that we can just add, then we'll certainly look at that.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, could I
Yes, sir.
also comment, again, for our new council members, by sending it back to the Planning Commission, the Planning Commission will hold public hearings on this. So the public will be invited to not only participate, but to offer their suggestions on those items that need to be retained in what was the Boulevard Overlay District. Because there are a lot of good specifics under the Boulevard Overlay District that we want to make sure we keep. And that those will be kept as part of the redesign of our zoning ordinance. So that, and that's what planning department's working on right now, to rewrite our zoning ordinance for the future, and to make sure we keep all those issues that are good under the overlay district. And the three that you see here are just the tip of the iceberg, so to speak. They're generalities, but there's a lot more that are very important to retain. So I wanted to make sure that our new council members understood that when it goes to the Planning Commission, the general public has an opportunity to comment and help us make the right decisions.
Is any action required tonight for this to advance to the Planning Commission?
No, sir.
Okay. Planning Committee okay with that? All right. That concludes item 2. Item 10, council business, new business, first reading of an ordinance to amend Chapter 116 titled Special Events Permits.
Accommodation zones. I think we skipped item 2.
Yeah, I don't think we,
I thought that was item 2.
That was 1. That
was
was Boulevard overlay.
Well, I had them
9B2.
together. Okay.
Sorry, 9B2.
Got it. Go back to 2 then.
I can just briefly explain what item 2 is, as Ms. Whitley
Yeah,
said.
ma'am.
This is the hotels, our 2019 comprehensive plan, which was adopted about a year ago. What we're working on with the code rewrite is to try to make our zoning code consistent with our comp plan. One of the things that it does recommend is it doesn't speak to accommodation zones, but it recommends certain areas for accommodation uses. So based on some concerns, and here we are back at that principal use table, where we have our hotels and our boutique hotels, what we would be looking to do with the same timeline as the Boulevard Overlay District, so it'd go to committee at December 6th, and then it'd go for public hearing for public input December 15th, is to it's not shown here, but it would still be eliminated as a permitted use, the boutique hotel and neighborhood commercial. And then in these other areas where it's there's a P, there would be a C. It would be a conditional use. And it would be conditioned on our comprehensive plan. And so we threw out a couple of options on how that should look. We got committee input, commission input, and here's what we've come up with and what we propose to move forward with. The condition for hotels would be, based on our comprehensive plan, that they're only located in those areas designated for town-scale commercial and waterfront Patriots Point. And then boutique hotels would be conditioned based on the community-scale commercial and would be identified and only allowed in these specific areas, and that would be in the Chuck Dolly Coleman area, Seaside Farms IOP connector, Highway 41, and then the Bell Hall 526 area. And so those would be, so that's how you would basically be able to kind of implement the comprehensive plan while we still continue to rewrite the code and work on all of our zoning districts and those sorts of things. So by making it a conditional use, tying it to the comprehensive plan, that is what we think that we can move forward with next month and bring to you back in January for first reading.
I have a question.
I have a question. So
Yes, sir.
this is where I'm, been at this for about an hour and 10 minutes now, or an hour, so excuse me. But, so I guess that's my question. Are we playing catch up on 9B1 and 2, your opinion, on 9B1 and 2 with 8A1? I mean, is there any overlap, that they should be considered together. We have one going through first reading, and then we have this going to planning, and should they be married at some point? I'm not saying,
They should be at the, I agree, they should be at the end, because essentially what's gonna happen is this table is gonna replace the one we just saw in agenda item 1. As Mayor stated, it could either have been deferred or it could be amended at final reading. So at final reading, we'll know, we'll have first reading on these items. So what we would be able to do then is say, okay, we're gonna amend it at final reading to include these subsequent items that are coming through at a later date. In a perfect world, they would have all come together, but here's where we're
I
at.
don't know if I can use this word in here, but I like efficiency. So if we can, so I was hoping for some efficiency, I guess, with that.
I understand.
Right, okay, thank you.
We'll make it as efficient as we can.
Thank you.
And Mayor, and for council, the schedule, of course, is that these will go to the November Planning Commission meeting.
December.
And,
December 15th.
December, right.
Yes,
And
sir.
then for council, it'll be,
Well, what we would want to do is, they could, it would actually be final reading December for this. And
Right.
so I think we could amend it, though. We'll have to look at the timeline.
okay.
table.
I guess the point is, if you would like them to track together, it depends on if we can get this to council. And as you all know, we can bring this for first reading immediately, and then you can track them together after that if council wishes
I
to do
believe the
that. But
presidents
it's not
need to-
necessary.
Okay. All right, so no action is required.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
On where you had option C
Yes.
that we had discussed,
Yes.
where you have and, should that word should be but?
I think actually, based on what came out of committee, we could probably get rid of the first part before the and just say they shall only be located
Right.
in these areas per the comprehensive plan. I
Because
just
the way
added
that
that.
reads, it sounds like it's going to be in all
And,
community
yeah.
scale and,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah,
the-
we've narrowed it down even more, and so I can probably even just take out that first part and just say it's gonna be, it's gotta be tied to these 4 areas on the comprehensive plan.
Oh, good, okay.
Yes, sir.
For the conditions for hotels, are there any town scale commercial areas in the northern part of town?
So, here's our map. The red is community scale, which is sort of a smaller, and that was one of the reasons, so a boutique hotel is an appropriate use per our comp plan in the community scale. The concerns that Planning Committee and Planning Commission had was, that's a lot of red. And so that's where the committee meeting, they ended up coming with that more strategic placement with those 4 areas. The town scale commercial you can see is the green, and those are the appropriate areas where a regular hotel would be allowed. And there is one right there. But the rest of your town scale is gonna be down in here, this area, and then on your Patriots Point area. So. And then for our, the conditions for a boutique hotel, they would be appropriate here. 520 IOP, Seaside Farms, Chuck Dolly, Coleman, and, see, 526 in Bell Hall area, it's right there. Yes, ma'am.
This green section, what, on the far right?
Right here,
Yeah, where is that?
that is Carolina Park.
Oh, Carolina Park.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
remember when we were talking about the comp plan and the town scale commercial, that there was reference to an area on that end of town that
Yes,
we
ma'am.
just kind of brushed over and said, yeah, there's one up there. Is that the specific area? I think it
Yes.
was near wherever the other Walmart, and is that where?
It's in
kinda across the
Carolina
street?
Park. Yeah,
Carolina
so
Park.
it's, yes, ma'am.
Okay, Carolina Park.
Yeah,
Anything else? Yes, ma'am, Ms. Willie.
so, so basically what the community scale commercial, what Ms. Reed was saying, is Ms. Hyatt came up with the idea of narrowing it further. So instead of it being in every single red area, it would just be limited to those 1, 2, 3, 4 identified zones. Because I think that the big concern that we have with the future of how things are going is, the peninsula is getting really built out, and so hotels are starting to come across the bridge to Mount Pleasant and are starting to be built, and what we don't want is a hotel in every corner in the town of Mount Pleasant. So I think that was why, and in line with the comprehensive plan, narrowing it to specific zones is appropriate.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. High.
We don't want all of our, commercial property to turn into hotels and eliminate opportunities for other things like small businesses or other job opportunities. So that was the point of sort of just putting in special areas where they'd be allowed.
Anyone else? All right, I don't think any action is required.
That's correct, sir.
All right, so there being no motion or no action required, now we can move to section 10. Council business, new business. First reading, an ordinance to amend Chapter 116 about special events permits in the town of Mount Pleasant. Mr. Pagliarini, if you'll give us the quick summary of this. This came through PLJ.
Yes, sir,
Yep.
and you all have a handout just for reference. You'll see that this is the first item on there, Ordinance 21076, to amend Section 116.03 minor impact. This takes out, as you can see in paragraph subpart B of the ordinance, adds in the last sentence, which provides that restaurants and bars operating or allowing the operation of amplified music systems during the normal course of business is not considered a minor impact special event. Obviously, those would be regulated by our noise ordinance, and the idea is that because those are often close to residential neighborhoods, getting a special event essentially exempts it from this noise ordinance. So this actually is what, at least what staff believes is more fair application.
All right, this did come through the committee, and it made sense, so the chair will entertain a motion to approve.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion to approve in a second. We're in discussion. Any discussion? All right, all in favor of the motion to approve, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
It's first reading of ordinance 21076.
Thank you very much. And then 10B, old business, final reading and ordinance to repeal and replace section 132.03 of the noise ordinance of the town of Mount Pleasant. Do we have a motion? Yes.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, now, since this is final reading, we can amend this, correct?
Yes, we can, if we proceed, if there is a motion for final reading, but,
Yes, sir, Mr.
Yes.
Mayor, if appropriate, I have a motion to defer.
yes.
Second.
We have a motion to defer, and a second. We are in discussion. Yes, ma'am. Ms. Hyatt. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you,
And Mr. Mayor, if you don't mind, I made the motion. If it's appropriate, I can
absolutely.
speak at this point.
You have the floor.
This noise ordinance has been something that I have quite a bit of experience with, as obviously a police officer in chief, and it definitely needs work. But we need something that our police department and our code enforcement folks can really have a tool to use that really gives them the guidance they need. And again, as a new council member, I'd like a little more opportunity to look at the data that's come in. I know there's some great information coming in from all sides. I had the opportunity to speak to Chief Arnold during orientation and talk about this ordinance. And I think just through our discussion, and if appropriate, he could share with us, he thinks he could use a little more time too, just to dig into this with our staff and come up with a good ordinance that will benefit our neighbors, our residents, our businesses, and this way it'll give our officers and other enforcement arm of the town something they can actually use as tangible, and that's why I made a motion to defer.
Got it. Any other discussion? Yes, sir. Mr. Santos.
I agree with that. One of the things I wanted to do was to try and drop down some of the decibel levels, as was mentioned by one of our citizens here. So I'm all for it. We could take another look at it. I'm glad to do it.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Rambo.
Just for clarity, does the motion include sending it back to PLJ, or is this just deferring it for a month?
Well, as the motion is stated, it's deferred, but of course, it can be added to that either through the motion or by the PJL committee if the committee so wishes.
If I need to amend my motion, is that what you're asking?
I don't think it has to have that for it to go back to PLJ.
Okay.
No, sir.
But I do believe, and for all council, that is the appropriate or an appropriate, the most appropriate.
As the chair, I
place for these
tell you, it will be on the next PLJ.
Yes, sir.
Here we
And
go.
also,
right.
so council knows, in your package, we do have the highlighted version that came out of PJL, so that you can see that and at least where it stands in the process.
Right. All right, so the motion is to defer. All in favor of the motion to defer, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So the motion is deferred, and it will be at PLJ. And those who are here to address this, we invite you to come to the committee meeting on the first Monday of December. This moves us to item C, executive session. Item 1 would be for legal and contractual discussion and possible action regarding purchase of land at Faison Road. 2 is personnel consideration of applications submitted to serve on the Planning Commission. Is there a motion that we go into executive session
So
for the
moved.
2 reasons that's
Second.
published? We have a motion and we have a second. Before we take the vote, let me give that council may take action on any item, including any subsection of any section listed on an executive session agenda or discussed in an executive session during a properly noticed meeting. Yes, sir, Mr. Rim?
Before we vote, I would just like to get clarity from the attorney and note that all of the due diligence documents that have been collected are not privileged information. So I guess I would just like some sort of guidance on exactly what we would be talking about in executive session that would be covered as privileged information, because I would prefer to have the vast majority of this conversation in public.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Counsel, that's absolutely correct. The due diligence documents that you've been provided, as well as the information related to permitting and other findings, are public information. And it would be appropriate if there were questions about those specific issues to have those in public. Sir, to answer your question about executive session, any questions of me, legal, as well as any items related to the contract and the positioning thereof should be done in executive session. So I hope that clearly delineates what is appropriate.
Understood. Thank
And,
you.
and for purpose, those questions can be asked now during discussion or after, if you wish to go into executive session after that. Either place would be appropriate.
And for clarity's sake,
Yes, sir.
this item is on the agenda at whose request?
This came from staff's requests, sir, related to due diligence findings.
Thank you. All right, any other discussion? All right, all in favor of entering executive session for the reasons stated in the motion and on the agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we are in executive session.
staff make a presentation giving an overview of the due diligence findings and, yep.
Sure, thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of Town Council. Just very briefly, the due diligence period was conducted internally, and that is something that normally takes place before any purchase of property. We looked at a number of things, water, sewer, access, things of that nature, and part of the due diligence process was to look at the environmental aspects of the property. Those include threatened and endangered species, the historical aspects of the property as well, to see if it was any hazard materials or any land use that created hazard materials. And also the third component of the environmental assessment is to the wetlands. Speak of the wetlands permit, the wetlands in the area, things of that nature. We solicited the services of Newkirk Environmental. Derek Myers is here with us tonight to expand on the components of the environmental part of that due diligence. So, Derek.
So as Kevin said, we conducted a phase 1 ESA and found, our findings was there were no recognized environmental conditions on the site. We also conducted a threatened endangered species assessment and determined that the type of habitat that's on site does not render suitable habitat for any threatened endangered species that occur in this area. And then from a wetland standpoint, we reviewed the existing permit for the property or for the Carolina Park overall, which is inclusive of this property. And we also went a step further to evaluate the property to determine if changes, if the permit were allowed to expire, what type of changes may occur in the wetland delineation that was done when the permit was issued in the early 2000s.
Changes be?
So as far as the permit is valid till 2025, to the end of 2025. And that period of time, development occurs, then that development is covered as far as the Army Corps of Engineers, DHEC, or Section 401 of DHEC, and coastal zone consistency, that it's all taken care of. It's done. If that were allowed to expire, it's our opinion that the wetlands would grow or get larger to the extent that there is potential that the majority of the property would be reclassified as wetlands if the permit were allowed to expire.
And you say majority, was there a percentage?
I gave a 90%. That was done via just a cursory walk of the property. So there was no true delineation. It was an estimate.
Okay. What would be the approximate cost of filling in those wetlands and making it suitable for development to where if we get to that 2025 date, we would still be allowed to develop it in the future?
So
I'll be happy to address that if you don't mind. We reached out to a local engineering company that just did very similar development right next door to this particular property, so we used some pretty good numbers. But what we did was we just used volumetric. We didn't have a plan or anything at the time, so the range that was provided was on the very low end. If the material actually were stockpiled on site and were not hauled off, which was a huge expense, then it would be around $3 million on the very low end. And on the very high end, if the property was cleared, graded, and suitable material brought into the site and then stabilized, then it would be around 4.7 million, thereabout. Now, there's a lot of variables and factors that go into play. Fuel prices, availability of contractors, the borrow pit site, haul locations, those type things. But those were just very brief, very quick estimates that we used and we reached out to one of our local engineering companies that had better knowledge of today's prices for that.
Okay, and those numbers are today's dollars, is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
And actual land, the land is, the actual appraisal came in at what? And if it were to be filled, does that change the appraisal or no?
Sir, I can answer that. I don't have the appraised number, but the property appraised at higher than the proposed purchase price. But we would have to have the property reappraised at that time to determine whether there'd be an adjustment. What I would tell you is that appraisal would be as of that date and would be based on market conditions at that date, meaning the current appraisal makes the reasonable assumption that the property is suitable for development, and that is the basis on which it was appraised. So we will not know that until an appraisal is done, noting the market conditions at that time.
Are you done?
For now.
Okay. So when is the next time hurdle or the next thing that happens under the contract for due diligence?
Yes, sir. Kevin mentioned due diligence. The due diligence period expires on November 15th, which is Monday at 5 p.m. That is the next notable event. And following that, closing would take place the week of November 22nd, Thanksgiving week.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or discussion?
I do.
Yeah, okay.
Well, Laura hasn't
All right,
talked
yeah,
yet.
let's let her speak first.
I was just going to ask, when you said the appraisal came in based on the land being suitable for development?
Right. It did not, it does not
Doesn't.
calculate in cost, for example, that were mentioned, fill cost. What the appraisal is doing is making an assumption that the land can be developed and that there are no additional development costs. This is an appraisal for raw land value, and it does not factor in costs for development, such as implementation of water, sewer, roads, all of those items necessary for development, including the scenario here where fill would be required.
Mr. Rambo.
Okay, so just to give a brief history, because I think there's been a lot of confusion. I know there's been confusion on my part, confusion on other council members. So a few months back when this was first brought to our attention, it came from the Economic Development Committee. And the stated purpose at that time was to purchase this land to then either flip to developers or to partner with developers on public-private partnerships and that sort of thing. Like I said, it came from the Economic Development Committee, not from the Recreation Committee, which to me is a very different land use. I have voted against this twice because of the fact that the stated purpose originally was for economic development. And I just firmly believe that the government has its role and private citizens, private developers have its role, and the free market can take care of itself in that area. Now, after the last vote, there was a lot of talk in the media and on social media about this being park space or recreation centers or a YMCA or a senior center, which while some of those things were mentioned as like a possibility on one tiny part of this parcel, the vast majority, when this originally was brought forward, was for economic development, which, like I said, is a very different thing. So I would be in favor of buying this land for recreation. Now, you bring into the issue these due diligence issues of wetlands and the flooding issues that we do have in some parts of town and Charleston in general. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that wetlands have been filled in all over the place. So then, okay, recreation might not be the best use of this land because we're going to have to spend $4.7 million of unbudgeted money to even make this land usable for that purpose. So then we get into conservation. And I feel that maybe I'm the only one, but I do feel like that would also be an appropriate use of this land that would not involve additional cost of unbudgeted money beyond the $6.5 million asking price. I know that it's listed on the agenda as just whether to buy it or not, so we can't take a vote on what to use it for. But if we were to move forward with this purchase, and I'm comfortable doing that, but I would really want it to just be conserved like it is. So that's my opinion.
Any other comments or any motions? Yes, sir.
Thank you. I believe that we have to listen to the residents of this town, and I know that more emails have come in to us to purchase the property than haven't. And I know that land is very, very rare right now in Mount Pleasant. So I believe that the citizens of Mount Pleasant want this land, and that they want us to purchase it for them. And that's our job, is to take care of the residents of Mount Pleasant. We've got to do that carefully. We can't just spend money like crazy, but when we don't purchase it, it gets turned on into something else. I'm afraid there might be people with pitchforks outside waiting on us. We'll see about that. So I believe that the people of Mount Pleasant want the land, and that's what I've seen.
Yes, ma'am.
I agree. I think this is a gift. We didn't even have to tap into any sort of fiscal need in order to get that money. I can't think of a better present to give Mount Pleasant than to buy 38 acres of undeveloped land for, after we buy it, then we'll fight it out. We'll figure out what's going to happen to that, getting input from everybody, all stakeholders as always, but just a chance at buying acreage in Mount Pleasant. How lucky are we? Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, also, we've been talking in the Recreation Committee about the next phase out there in that area of building a softball field and some things. And so we're already going to be bringing dirt in and filling in some wetlands out there. So I don't think it's going to be, if we decide to do this, regardless of whether it's recreation or whatever, I think we're going to end up having to put some dirt out there anyways, regardless of what we do out there. I think it'll be less expensive if we're already have an operation going on where we're filling an area back at Carolina Park, and that's why I just want to make sure that everybody knows that we're already going to be working out towards that area. So I just don't feel like it's going to be as expensive as we're predicting it to be. Thank you. And like somebody said, the overwhelming responses that we've been getting from people have been that they want us to get this piece of property for, that end of Mount Pleasant for the citizens. And then certainly we can decide on what we can do with it after we get the property.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Whitley.
So, I think that we should definitely move forward with the purchase of this property. This is something that I had been working towards, or something similar to that, for a long time. And at the time we didn't have the funding to even take down this large piece of property. But because of the ARPA funds, we have this once in a lifetime opportunity to take down a large parcel of land for the benefit of the citizens. And I think, as Ms. Corley said, as others have noted, there could be a conservation element to this. There could be a community center. There's so many possibilities for recreation, or for, or a park, the parklands and trails. So I think that we're never going to get another opportunity like this, and I don't think that this council will ever regret purchasing 38 acres of land for the benefit of the citizens of Mount Pleasant.
Any other comments?
Well said.
Any motions? All right, there being no motions, we stand adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.